live. Okay. It is the 16th of May 2023, the day before International Day of Against Transphobia, Biphobia, and Queerphobia. And at Nosana Molemo, we thought it only appropriate to speak to a legend, an international traveler who goes around being artistic, being an activist, and being somebody that speaks positively around queer lives, what we should be famous for, what we should be celebrated about, and what should be concerned about when it comes to the LGBTI community in South Africa and obviously in the world, right? We are talking to Aluta Humbane, and thank you so much for joining us. How are you today? Can you hear me, Aluta? How are you?
I'm excited. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but you're frozen there. You're frozen on your side.
I'm excited. I'm happy. I'm very optimistic. I'm great.
Thank you so much for joining us. Look, we're in the Free State. Okay. We're on the internet. We are available worldwide, right? But what I'd like to share just is a little bit of background around what is the gender exchange? Why are we doing it? Who are we talking to? And what is our intention, objectives, and aims around this? Because gender is a topic that now people are identifying as different genders. People are being gender non-conforming. People are identifying as gender non-binary. People are collapsing the heteronormative cisgender space as being the normal way that we must understand other human beings, right? So in the gender exchange, we're talking to lawyers, people that are working in the justice system, in our health system, artists, activists, people really that understand that gender isn't something that you look at somebody and you understand their gender and you know how to refer to them. And obviously artistic expression, it's something where we can't just assume, if somebody expresses this way, that's how you must know them to be all the time. People bend their gender, people are fluid about their gender. And we thought, if tomorrow is International Day Against Queerphobia, Biphobia, and Transphobia, what is our responsibility as allies? What is our responsibility as the queer community? What is our responsibility as people that gender express? So that's why we invited you here today. And thank you so much for accepting our invite. But I don't see you. What happened to you? Your screen is dark at the moment. Are you still there? But anyway, let me ask you.
I can see you and I can see myself. Can you see me now?
I can't. The screen is, your side is dark, so I should probably check on Facebook. What does it look like? Because that's where we live. Yes, they can see us. They can see us on Facebook. Aluta continua.
Yes.
That is when you know somebody is truly an activist.
Can you see me now?
Let me see. Hold on.
I can see you clearly. I can see you clearly.
Let me see what we got here. I'm just great. Yes, perfect. All right, we apologize to everybody watching. We welcome everybody watching. We have people from the Free State who identify as transgender. Our program at Nosana Molemo is a transgender program, and we are just trying to see how can we influence and educate people around the conversation on gender. It shouldn't be something that you are faced with at home affairs only for the first time to explain yourself. from a doctor. It's something that is so personal, because when you identify in the, when you're not identifying as cisgender, there's a lot that you need to explain. And when we invite somebody like yourself, we kind of want to know, what has your journey been? So if you don't mind, our topic today is queer advocacy, human rights, and artistic expression. And you are an artist. You express yourself artistically as a vocalist, as a photographer, as a performer. You've been on stage with celebrated artists. And sometimes we choose, I'm only going to be known as an artist. Ignore the other parts. So now we won't know exactly what happened. Like, how did you grow up? What was your childhood like? And when a person is suddenly at the stage where you're at, we won't know how you got there. So can you please give us a little bit of a background on, just a little bit on your life? If you can give us a summary, who is Aluta? And if you don't mind, because some of us are thinking, how can somebody be called Aluta? If you can give us other details as well. So welcome. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Tholwana. I am honored to be here. When we travel, especially with Molemo, the reception internationally is always so amazing. We feel like stars. And when we come back home, we feel like we are not celebrated enough. So when somebody invites me to come and speak and be part of something in South Africa, I'm overly excited, because I begin to understand that I'm able to share a part of me with abantu bakithi. Nokuthi mhlambe soyidayisa phesheya kwamanye amazwe kodwa bakithi bengasazi. So ngicela ukubonga nje lapha. I'm very, very grateful for that opportunity. Igama lami ngu-Aluta Khawekazi uNomzamo. Aluta comes from the fact that my father is Mozambican, partially Mozambican, partially Portuguese, and also then my mother's side, it is partially Portuguese, partially Indian. So I have an Indian blood in me, I have a Portuguese blood in me, I have a Shangan blood in me, I have a Zulu blood in me. That's what makes up Aluta. So if we all know, Aluta means is taken from the quote Aluta Continua, which was the liberation struggle of Mozambique when it was fighting for its independence from Portuguese rule. So I think Maria Makeba and a host of other very, very important artists also took that slogan to create music. One of the songs that is popular is Aluta Continua, Aluta Continua, Continua. So, that song is speaking about the African child plight and or search for freedom, which never ends. So just simply meaning the struggle continues. So I just so happen to be an activist, and I'm part of a vision that is not just premised on socio-economic and political differences and or fighting over power, but one that is speaking of existence and trying to find one's space in the face of society. By my partner and the baby daddy one. When we were dating, I think in the third year, just came and called that name and said Khawekazi, and I really love the name. I think he saw something when he presented to use that name Khawekazi, as such that I even put it in my ID document. Then uNomzamo is my mother. When I was born male. I was born and assigned male at birth, so my gender marker was male, and as a result, I was given the name Umzamo. And I felt that when I was transitioning, I wanted to keep a little bit of something that will be familiar to people who knew me as Umzamo, but also which will also speak to me as a feminine woman. So I just named it Umzamo. So Aluta comes from Ilali, Nant, just a little township, Esama farm sort of, Esama Kobeni in Durban. I grew up just this lovely baby child, very flamboyant and very feminine. At primary school, mama, that's how feminine I was. And then from primary school, I started acting. I remember there's this TV show called Steve Family Matters. Yeah, in a character was too, Steve Herkel, who used to be so quirky. So I loved the character and I loved TV because I could escape with TV. I would watch TV and I would feel like yonke pain engizwayo ngiyakwazi ukuthi ngiphume kuyona uma ngibukela TV, ngibukela ama-family matters and all these comedies of the time. And mind you, at the time when we were growing up, the TV was black and white. Don't ask me about my age. So I started acting at that point, and I think I was in an Indian school, and people quickly took notice, and they brought me on board. I started acting and then I started acting Who Love Life Games, and we toured a lot in just South Africa, and this was in my primary school. And then subsequently, my mom was working at Woolworths at the time. So this was pre-1994. And my mom got me a slot to be a model at Woolworths. And I think for me, that was like the biggest thing ever as a primary school child. It was also the most nerve-wracking because I was one of 3 Black people at that time who was modeling with a bunch of white people. Nevertheless, it really trained me to be for what was to come. I finished high school, and just like every other parent, when I told my mom at the time, who was a single parent, that I wanted to go study art, she said, "I'm sorry, but I cannot find that for you. I don't think art is something for Black people. Art music is." It broke my heart. I ran away from home and I moved to Johannesburg. I found
How old were you? How old are you when you ran away from home?
Oh my gosh, I think I was 18. I finished matric and I ran away. Okay. I hadn't been dating, so I met this guy when I was 18. That was my first gay experience. His name was Tukelo. May so rest in peace. And I was working at Spur during the weekends, and I saved up some money, and I gave it to Tukelo. And Tukelo, can you find me a flat in Johannesburg? I just want to leave. I cannot stand this. Also, there was a lot of issue with regards to sexuality and acceptance in the spaces in which I found myself at home. And I needed to heal because I've endured a lot of trauma. So I just ran away. I moved to Johannesburg, and prior to that, I was friends with a lot of celebrities, and one of them was Ulundi Chamara, the gospel artist. He was a very, very good friend of mine. Whenever Ulundi would come and perform in Durban, he would, because at the time, Ulundi was very controversial, and he was found in the newspapers a lot for drinking and all of that. So he manager used to lock him up at the hotel. So Ulundi would be calling me and be like, "Mom, I'm at this hotel. Is that fella?" And I'll drink alcohol and we'll go to the hotel. And then Ulundi introduced me to the likes of Mbosomi, Victor Love, and a host of other celebrities, not Deborah Fraser. Deborah Fraser, and then we became very close with Deborah Fraser. When I became close with Deborah Fraser, I met Nomcebo Jerusalem, and she quickly became a sister to me. So when I gave Tukelo money to find a place for me in Johannesburg, and he didn't, I then found a place to stay. And because I ran away from home, I can't go back home. I called the Nomcebo to go there, and the Nomcebo was staying at the Windy Floor at the time. And I said, oh, this that is. I don't have a place to go. So Nomcebo called me in and we stayed together, sleeping this floor in Vineyard, and I stayed there for about 2 weeks. And thereafter, I called another friend, Usianda Mwanda. I think he's the director and producer from Crown Gospel Awards and a host of other shows. And I subsequently started looking for work around the art because for me, I was very hungry for the art. And
who was this?
a few weeks down the line, I found myself in Africa Umoja. So I joined Umoja with Tendi Twala and Chotwala, and the time it was at Yeovil. So I used to travel, and we found a flat at the Ria. Pardon?
No, I was gonna ask what year was this all happening? If you could give us an indication of what year this was. Was this like late 90s, early 2000, late 2000?
It was just before Lebo Matrosa passed away, because Lebo Matrosa was a part of our clan at the time, and so it was the 90s something, 2000, early 2000. I'm not very good with dates.
So tell me, let me quickly interrupt you. I know I asked a long question.
And we told you to Moja, then and then depression hit me, and then we did a show at the Market Theatre. Yeah.
So when you ran away from home, was it because when you ran away from home, did you feel unsafe at home or unaccepted at home, and you felt like they're going to suppress you at home, or you felt like you've got something to prove if you leave and there's something you want to show when you come back home? What was actually, I mean, you're just saying about you, obviously you had some trauma and that, and obviously you can say, you can elaborate to however way you're comfortable. Because I mean, when a talented person runs away from home, sometimes they've promised them at home about, hey, I'm going to show you, I'm going to come back with some notoriety, with some fame. So what was the main driving force for you to leave home? And were you scared to be at home, or what was a little bit about that?
So I found myself ready to come out and tell my mom that I'm queer. At the time I thought I was gay. And I remember my mom was cooking, and I walked into the kitchen and I said, "Ma, I'm gay." And then, you know, she just, the response shattered my heart. She said, I don't have a gay child. I thought I gave birth to a boy and not a girl. I think for me, that was just.
But she didn't put an ultimatum about, I won't have a gay child in the house. But no, you just thought.
No, she just rejected me. I mean, from the time when I was at grade 11, I had already been working for my own money at a restaurant at Spur, because at some point she stopped buying me clothes because she didn't want to buy me the clothes that I wanted. So I had to grow up and be an adult. So I was working at Spur, leaving school after school, going to Spur and doing the waitress shift, and then coming back around midnight, then waking up and going to school in the morning so that I can pay my own school fees and pay for my own clothing. So from grade 10, 11, when I started to express myself, I think I faced some degree of resentment from her and some degree of disgust and perhaps shame that she could not confront. And besides it, it threw me away, and I felt home was no longer a safe space for me. I felt rejected. I felt like I didn't belong. And the more I stayed there, I just felt like I'm dying because I was not allowed to be. She didn't force me to conform and say I must act in a particular way, but she was just very aggressive and very angry, and you know, she could have been dealing with her own issues. But came matric, I felt like, you know what, for me, I wanted to study drama because also in the arts, I get to escape in the arts. I get to recreate a different outcome of what I want to see. I get to heal through the arts. And for me, it was one of the most important things. So when I ran away from home, I said, I'm going to do this whether my mom allows it or not. And I want to prove to myself that I'm worthy, I'm capable, that I can do it, and to myself. And also because home was no longer a safe space and a welcoming space, I didn't see the need that I should stay there anymore. In fact, when you are rejected, you leave, you know.
Absolutely. And it's
I
so
think
important
the
that
pain
you
of
share
rejection
that.
was just
Some people
overwhelming.
forget that when you are perhaps surviving or you are known and you are celebrated, people don't know that you actually come from the same struggles that maybe some people are already experiencing, you know. Some organizations are popping up for LGBTI people, and then something like this. Because a lot of LGBTI NGOs, they don't have shelters. They don't have a space for you to express yourself as your gender identity, as your sexual orientation, right? And the fact that you finished and you paid for your own studies. Hey, by the way, I also worked for, I don't know why Spur is getting a bit of a thing, but what I loved about them is that they had that gender neutral uniform, right? So you didn't experience additional, while you were working and stuff, it wasn't an additional space for you to experience some prejudice or discrimination. So I'm just asking there, was it okay for you to be working there?
Spur it was Spur is a family restaurant. So it's very homey. And their principles and the existence of the structure of the restaurant is premised around family and acceptance and love. So quite often, I mean, everybody, male or female, wore an apron. Male or
Yes.
female, we wore jeans, and we had particular uniform from Spurs. So they gave you the t-shirt and the apron, and we all wore jeans. So there was no kind of feeling that I could not be myself. We could all wear jeans, and we were all equal. And when it came to expression, I think they really appreciated my expression. In fact, I think that's one of the places that I really felt at home, because they knew I was just alive. Us being alive and flamboyant, it's really good for business, because they want people who are alive, who are going to draw in
Friendly,
clients and play with
talkative,
the children.
make the
Friendly.
customers feel
So
like,
I,
you
I always,
know, yeah. By the way, I just want
I
to share
always,
that
I always,
we have a comment on already, because you're already starting to inspire us and our audience. Kim Blank, who I know personally is a trans woman, and she's fabulous. She's saying, I love the reason that she left home to prove to herself first, not someone else or her more. So yeah, people are following this. So before we move on, please just clarify for us, how do you identify, what is your gender expression and what is your gender identity?
So I identify as a cisgender woman.
Yes. Wow.
Who is androgynous, and who is attracted to a sapiosexual cisgender man. If I
How
had to
does
break it
one move from
down,
being transgender to cisgender? May I ask, Aluta? Oh, Utina Pakum, what are you saying? I love it. I would like to teach us.
So for me, transgender is about, remember that we are born into bodies that we feel we are born into.
Yeah.
But the world categorizes us and puts us in a particular shelf. And as a result, it distorts our reality of who we see ourselves as being. From growing up, I've never seen myself as a trans woman, but I've seen myself as a woman. But because I was born in the body of a biologically male and assigned a gender marker of a male, I then had to find myself transitioning back to my cisgenderism. So when I say transgender, it's the transitioning from this label of being called a man as to who I identify as. And for most people, until you get to the point when you feel complete as a woman, you are still in the process of transitioning. When I say complete, I'm speaking about psychologically, it could be aligning yourself body-wise. It could just be how you interpret and see yourself and accept yourself. So I say cisgender because I transitioned from the space where I was a trans woman to a cisgender woman. I've done my therapy. I've gotten to accept and understand who I am as a cisgender woman. And I'm fortunate enough that I've also done my hormonal therapy. So I see my breast and I'm content with that. And very recently, I did my alignment surgery, which now I have a vagina and the genitalia, which is women. So I'm no longer, there's nothing that resembles me of that transitioning part. Even my ID document, I'm waiting for a new ID document from Home Affairs, which reflects female instead of male. So what exactly am I transitioning, and why will I call myself a transitioning woman when I've transitioned already? Somebody who's moving from the space in which they were put by other people, their parents, the doctors, without their consent. They are coming back to themselves. And when you have reached that space where you come back to yourself, you are no longer a trans woman, you are a woman.
Exactly, yes. But now there's also the transsexual identity, which has been a term of contention because not everybody can access the gender, alignment surgery. And now some people, they feel like they've graduated from being transgender to transsexual. So have you got any, what's your view on the transsexual definition?
The transsexual is a very derogatory term.
Yes.
It's a very outdated term. You cannot be a transsexual because sexuality is different from gender identity. Sexually, so when you say transsexual, I don't know what you are referring to. But a transgender is my own personal identity. My sexual orientation then becomes something else. So I don't encourage people to embody the word transsexuality. Yeah, in our
because some people will stop there. They won't go all the way like you and say I'm cisgender now. They will stop there at transsexual. Yeah. I was hoping you can help us there. Yeah.
I think the term transsexual is a term that was used a bit while back. Remember, Wuti, science and evolution and the gender studies are always evolving. And there are words that were coined at a particular stage, which made sense at the time because there was inadequate information to transcend those words and move them into a space where they are politically correct and also represent the particular person or individual in their most respected and dignified manner. When you say transsexual, I do. So, the word for me,
it's unacceptable. I'm sorry I had to mention it.
Also, no, it's okay. Also, the thing is with transgenderism or transgender identity, not everybody may want to try to transition.
Yes.
Because the concept of gender is personal. Some people may say, I am transgender, and they are very fine with their body exactly as it is, but they still need to. That's why we were advocating for gender neutral space or unisex toilets and spaces in schools and other spaces, because some people might identify as transgender. So a trans man might identify as transgender, but still remain as they are without wanting to change any parts of their body or image because they are comfortable, but might be living within the genders. So if so is a woman as well. So if they had to access those private spaces as they are, as they present, it would really pose a threat for them, because again, we cannot coerce people to say, just because I'm Aluta, I've transitioned, I must have breasts, I must have a vagina. Some people might not want to have a vagina. They might want to still keep their penis, but still consider themselves as women. And that's perfectly fine, because
Exactly,
that's who
because a
they
person
are,
can
and that is their preference.
identify as transgender with no surgery, no hormones, and with no like change, you know. So that's actually very important, because some people only want to understand that you're transgender only after you say you are taking pills or you've had some surgery. That socially is not enough, especially if maybe your body, it still looks, I mean, I know with trans men, if maybe you are quite large and you still have your breasts and you're a trans man, they kind of don't believe you, and they only will take your word for it. And that's also something that you can't only be told, or you can't only be accepted as transgender just because you're on hormones or because you have surgery. Just what you say and how you identify as yourself, that's how other people should you know, that's how people should refer to you, right? So now I've got another question for you. How is your gender separate or connected to your sexuality?
Okay, so when I introduced myself, I said Aluta is a cisgender woman who is androgynous.
Yes.
So my
But everybody understand androgynous though.
I don't think so, but
So please expand on
androgynous,
that, please. I understand what you mean when you say androgynous, but please expand on that.
Yeah. So when we speak about androgynous kind of expression, it's an expression which interplays between masculinity and femininity identity. So one that expresses itself merely out of feeling rather than expectation. So I would rock up at work wearing my very masculine dog martens and my track pants and a very masculine t-shirt, and I'll be like, "What is it?" And you know, and I'll even walk like a guy. And in fact, I present very masculine. I'm a feminine, masculine person. For me, the ideas or the concepts of femininity and masculinity are just really energy. And I believe we all have both femininity and masculinity. And it also tends to come out based on the environment in which we find ourselves. Quite often, a lot of and kind of hard, and femininity is very soft. When somebody pisses you off, you move from the feminine and you go 120 masculine in your aggression. So really, the concept of restricted expression isn't in what society expects you to be actually feminine and not be masculine, when in essence we embody both. So when I speak about androgyny, I'm speaking of that. When I speak about sexuality, and I said I'm a sapiosexual, I am attracted to a person or a guy. I said I'm a sapiosexual. I'm attracted to a sapiosexual male, cisgender man. So I'm attracted to a man who identifies as cisgender. So what people will call straight, because I'm also a straight woman. But that man must not be dumb. So I love it when I have somebody who challenges me to think out of the box. Yeah, my partner is very, very smart. I've got
the man
very,
must
very
not
smart
be dumb.
baby.
Yeah.
I want somebody I can have a conversation with, we can argue with, we can have fun, we can be satirical. And I think for me, that turns me on. I can sit with somebody and not have a sexual intercourse for a month, but we're always fucking in our minds, because that's how deep it goes when it comes to connection. So when I say sapiosexual man, I'm really meaning that And yeah.
So let me ask you something. This is the okay. Sorry, let me let you finish.
On the couch. I'm in her room. No, Karen, you can ask.
You know what I would like to ask you, because it has been known that perhaps a person will still be discovering themselves. They are perhaps gay or lesbian and they're attracted to the same sex while they still identify as the sex they assigned at birth. And then perhaps they go on the hormones. And then what will happen is you will be a trans man, and then you will continue to be gay after you take your hormones. So I'm not sure if people should be afraid. I'm not sure if now, I shouldn't be saying this, but it has been known that perhaps you were in a same-sex relationship while before you were hormone, you were on your gender affirming therapy and either your testosterone or and then you are attracted to the same sex, but the genitals are different. And then we, as the queer community, will judge you. Meantime, listen, here's a trans man who's now gay, he's dating a man. Or if you were not gender heterosexual, and you were perhaps dating women. How do we start to understand that possibility, and how do we kind of educate ourselves about, look, if this person was identifying as a lesbian and then a butch lesbian and then a trans man and then they become gay, there's nothing confusing about that. Do you have like some way of talking us through about how that is possible and how we should know that's also something that is there?
I think slowly, we've been denying the fact that sexuality and gender does not exist. I mean, the concept of gender does not exist. I think as a person, we might all be pansexual because and also attraction is not really premised on gender. You can really be attracted to somebody and love and fall madly in love with somebody just because of who they are. And in alignment, when a trans man transitions to, let's say, a trans man transitioned from female to male, that person becomes a male. What stops them from dating a gay feminine bottom man? Because they are in their zone with somebody who juxtaposes their energy of masculinity and femininity, especially if it's a trans man with a gay bottom man. How they have sex is their business. I think also one of the challenges is that we are subsequently starting to become like heterosexual people, where we ourselves are becoming the judge and jury of what happens in other people's bedrooms. So if a butch man is dating if a trans man is dating a cisgender woman, you know, I don't know. I think we all have an issue, and I think you know, about Alcohol would speak about the idea of the oppressed becoming the oppressor. I think perhaps in our heightened state of oppression, we have somehow become the oppressor.
Yes.
And I think this is quite common because there's so much injuries of who should date who and how, and who should not date. But at the same time, I started with but still or how they to their relationships. Not be ignorant of the fact that they're poor illiterate. We cannot be ignorant of the fact that people exist. And what if person is pansexual? What if they're asexual? Should they now not practice who they are just because they seek to subvert the status quo? We have also subverted the status quo from moving from heteronormative expectations and started living within how we ukuthi sibuze ukuthi singabo-judge nama-relationships abanye abantu ukuthi bani nobani kanjani. It shouldn't be our business. Maybe
yeah, it's not our job,
and they can start living their life after that they we don't even that's their business. It's their intimate space.
Our connection is getting a little bit it's getting a little bit crackly, but the nice thing about this, when we upload this on YouTube, people can see the writing underneath. What is it called? The transcribe. So let's
I can hear you.
Yeah, no, I can hear you now again. But now with all of this, we are still addressing stigma. We are still addressing race, and we are still addressing sexuality, right? And even if we are self-confident within ourselves, I am not going to need to explain to you, if I'm not dating you, why I'm attracted to what I'm attracted to or how my gender is. But at the end of the day, sometimes we do have to address it somehow, whether we address it by ignoring it or keeping quiet, or actually going out and saying, hey, this is it, don't mistake it. Do you address the stigma when it comes to these things? Or do you find that particularly for you, because of the fact that you cisgender heterosexual, then people feel like, oh, finally, from when you were younger to now, everything has come full circle. But then not everyone is that fortunate. So what is the best way to address that stigma? Like my question that I was asking now, yeah.
You know, I think what we spoke about earlier, to say that we as advocates are walking billboard. I myself am a walking billboard. A society where education is key. Yeah. So, you know, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, we have to educate people because abantu abazi, yabo. Just as much as Google can campaign speaking to educate people about what the virus is about, what's corona, just as much as the fourth industrial revolution, and part and parcel when I have those conversations, when I address stigma, it is really to educate people. So I'm very, very bold and very happy when I have to be put on the spot and ask questions about what people don't understand, because it then means whoever is asking me is coming from a space of wanting to know and perhaps to change the ignorance that they might have. And that is good, because it then means it moves them from a space where abazi lutho to a space so that they themselves can then be advocates and go and educate other people within their spaces and their social spaces. Activism, really, network activism works in that way, where you speak or keep to a circle of friends, where you educate them and plant a seed and they educate other people. And in so doing, we create a very educated society which respects one another. Because for me, my philosophy is that it's not for you to uyithande, but just as much as mina ngikuhlonipha indlela wena ophila ngayo, nawe hlonipha indlela engiphila ngayo. Ma uyifela ngikuhlonipha ngikubuke, that's your job. If you are a sex worker, that's your job. If you are a person who loves fashion, that's what you love, and I respect that. And I give that respect. So I always expect that respect in return is about. If I am mean to you, then you can then criticize my character. But don't criticize my being, because for my being is the very existence of why I'm alive here and here with you today. So education is key in addressing stigmas, and also visibility is key. I think the biggest one is visibility. I like what you said in your preamble when you said that, I'm traveling spaces and I'm traveling the world. For me to travel the world, there was a time when just last in November, I was going to perform in Mauritius, and I was headlining act in Mauritius, who happens to be queer. And I traveled to Mauritius before, but you hardly see queer people. If they are there, they are totally straight acting. So, and by the virtue of my existence as a queer person, singing on that stage, even if I was not singing, if I just stood there, the fact that a queer person came and stood there means that I was a walking paper to educate people. So occupying spaces become key, because sometimes activism must not be brutal. We find ourselves a lot in spaces where activism has been about billboards. No, but we cannot fight. What we are trying to eradicate is violence. So how are we using violence to eradicate violence? We cannot do that. We have to find other approaches. But I know within the
I've lost you.
Sorry, I just had a call.
No
Have
problem.
you got me now?
Yes, I've got you. But let me come in there, because I love that you now are a cisgender heterosexual queer person, disrupting all definitions right now. Okay. So when you are doing your activism and your revolution, and you are in places where your visibility is speaking for itself, right? I just want to check, but how do we how can I say, in terms of advocacy, do you always want to give that back description? Do you always want to go back and start from the beginning? Is it necessary for you to explain that you were born assigned male at birth? Is that part of the education? Because I was watching, I think, just a reality show, and there was a female that some guy mistook as being transgender. And the question was, were you born a woman? Have you always been a woman? As if you're going to be somehow disqualified of being female if you weren't born female. So what is the actual, what is the true advocacy around that? Like, do we all have to fight for our own individual stories? Or when you come in hugging and holding everyone in the queer space, in the LGBTI space? I don't know if I can even answer that question. I don't know what I would say, but that's what I'm asking you now.
So, and I got you. So, we are humans before our sexuality and gender identities. Our gender identities and sexualities exist as mere descriptors and perhaps for demographics. They are not identifiers of our bodies, which is given to us and perhaps by the names that we are. To answer your first question, you have to go back and redo it all over again. We are in the process of transformation, where in the past we have had a very, very brutal political system, which really annihilated our existence based on our race. And then obviously we found ourselves subsequently being politically free. And then we are finding ourselves now being the oppressors. This thing on the man, this I wasn't vote. So you know, I wasn't vote. I just want to back in desert. I don't know how that works, but as Black people, conversation not so long ago, nani bantu abamnyama bengavumelekile ukuthi ngiphile nivote nihambe endaweni ethile, ningavumelekile ninganikezanga isithunzi sokuthi ni-existe. I find it particularly strange when Black people are now sidelined another human being. But again, we always have to put in the company. I'm not as a person, any of the labels that are attached to us. But we are advocates, we are activists. we are walking robots. We are educators. And quite often we have to assess, because remember, I don't have to get into a room and explain who I am unless I feel that there is a need, because I've gauged that there's some misunderstanding of who I am. And just to put people in the picture and to perhaps give them a glimpse of who I am, because who I am is a reflection of 10, 20, 30 other trans women. So by me explaining myself and my existence and who I am and where I came from, perhaps I'm educating these people so that when they meet another trans woman, I've said that trans women victimized, not be as brave as Aluta. They might shy away and end up hiding who they are because they do not have the capacity within them to stand forth and say, I am this, so and so and so and so and so. Aside from all of that, you know, when I started transitioning from the from being gay to trans, I never told anybody. I never even told my friends, my family. I did not. I think at the point, I did not see the need. It goes back to Lentengi, show you, yes, in spaces of activism and advocacy, it might be important, especially after assessing the environment, to kind of go back and educate people so that people leave that space informed and they go to their cocoon. Then I knowledge on how to treat a person who might be beautiful like myself. But in spaces where you've coexisted for a longest time, there might not be a need. When I transitioned around La, where I stay, I never told anybody. People automatically started calling me Ngonomzamo. People started automatically, even Nabafana, with the house is Aluta, Auntie Aluta, because I embodied that and I was not shy to present who I was. You know? It goes back to saying, when a straight person ese-reach age la sekumele aqonde khona benentombi wabe nendoda akahlali phansi nabazali bakhe athi ma I'm straight and I have a girlfriend. They don't do that.
No, they don't.
They just date.
Yeah.
And their parents figure. Yeah, they just date and their parents figures it out. We have to get to a space in society, and that's where we are moving. With the young ones, with education, again, we have to include education as part of this transition so that there is equality, respect, and dignity that is upheld, because when you understand something, you know how to treat it. So we have to get to a space where when my daughter, when she's 16 and she comes home with a girl, I can figure it out and it's okay, what's happening. And I don't have to question her. The only thing I could be like, baby, what is the name of your friend? And then whenever they are ready or comfortable,
your special friend.
Their friend is their partner.
Yeah.
Your special friend, of course.
Okay, look, we went quite deep into, and that's the thing, some people even protest the thing that I can't even call somebody my girlfriend. I first have to say my friend, then I have to say my special friend, my friend that I'm in love with. It takes so far to actually graduate to say you're never going to tell your parents this is my lover, because you're not supposed to speak in those terms, né? But this is why we've got the artistic expression. That's why you are also an artist, right? Because I mean, this is also a platform that you've been able to also express yourself. When I was now looking at your bio and that your song, Uba Nam Tandindoda, even if people have known you to be queer, that is still a radical thing, because maybe your family won't mind if you keep it at home, but then you leave it to be known outside. Your activism and your art have come together. What was that intentional, or was it unavoidable? And how is that working for you, and how are you using that?
So we are all activists in our own spaces. Perhaps we might not be able to really understand it. I listen to a lot of music, and I studied music at UK Veteran. And part of studying music was really, again, as I indicated earlier, that for me, the art is a space for healing. You know, when I write music, I heal. It's a space where I connect with Idlozi. I released an in 2019 on February. It was Valentine's. And I just come back from a tour with Molemo in New York, where we did like the best places. I'm talking about the Bronx Museum, Schomburg Center, the Bronx. I mean, we lived in Manhattan Plaza. We literally hit all our states of New York, from Staten Island to Brooklyn to Manhattan to Harlem. You know, so I come back. I was excited. I was very motivated because in those spaces we're doing activism on an international stage, where we are talking to international people about who we are and the struggles that we face. I released a song, and it just so happened, I think it's the time where Usenzo and Jason kissed, Good Generations. It was around that time. And I keep on listening to the radio, and I'm not hearing the song that speaks about me and my partner as a man. Like, even to my queer celebrity friends, I'm listening, but they are speaking through the heteronormative lens. And it troubled me, because we are taking for granted the constitution emnandi esinikeza ithuba lokuthi coexist. And then I said to myself, I'm going to do the song, you know, and I did the song, I released the song, and it just went viral. It was controversial. I had to call the FM calling me, and because the FM, because the song is Zulu, it then attracted the FM, and they wanted to know, and people were talking on TV. And I sat there for that week, hearing people talk about my song. I was very excited, because that's exactly what I wanted to achieve.
Was it really positive stuff?
Sorry?
What were people saying? What was it?
The conversation was, I think people were shocked.
It was hot and spicy.
No, people were shocked. Oh, there's this artist who was speaking of Okuluma Ngokutubani, because they were like, so we have Aluta, Okuluma Ngokuthi Uthandindoda. And for me, that's exactly what I wanted, because sometimes we have to use talk therapy in order to dilute and subvert or change the status quo. It becomes part and parcel of advocacy. How do we get people to talk about something that people are ignoring? We don't talk about our sexuality and gender. So it took Senzo and Jason's kiss for people to talk about same-sex, and then it took release for people to talk about it. I know with daily text about the Kulimangao and other shows that week. Things like all the registration, like and I think for me, just understand that. And I wanted to do that even to the queer people who are celebrities and who are musicians, to say, why aren't you talking about yourselves and the relationship you have with yourself? Why do you gaslight yourself? Why do you act like you are not existing when the government is giving you the right? Are we also question the aspects of freedom?
No, absolutely.
So when we're looking at art and
you'll be comfortable socially.
Again, I manage it.
No, sorry. I think our connection is not the greatest. I'm really hoping that when we play this back.
No, I can hear you. I think when you play it back, it's going to be fine. I can hear you. It's
hopefully when it plays back, because that is the thing. Because sometimes people, they'll be like, we are Ndazimos, bayayazimos, wife neka ndikhuphe phandle ne. And that's where they keep on keeping the movement suppressed. Because if you got the ability to come out the way you did with that song, that was very brave, but you lifted up so many people in doing so, right? But now I'm going to ask the deeper question. Do you use your African spirituality as an art, also as an activism tool? Because I'm not sure how much you want to talk about yourself as an African spiritualist, but now here you are, you're an African spiritualist and an artist and an activist. Have you merged those also?
Yes.
Tell us.
For me, spirituality, I cannot remove myself from myself. The shadow that I travel with every day when I walk and it hits at the backdrop and I see a shadow, that's my spiritual part, myself or my existence, and forget an extension or a part of me which seems to be extended that is intertwined. I create work from a spiritual space. That's why, in fact, me and Nosana, that's what we do. When we, we'll get to a place like we'll be in New York, for instance, and we'll be like, today we want to do 4 pictures. We want to shoot 4 pictures. And then we wake up and we'll be like, for the Peluso, we haven't shot any picture because spiritually we were not aligned at the time. So for us, our work is very, very spiritual because kubalulekile sihlanganise umzimba, inyama, emotion, spirit in order to convey what we feel. What I feel is just not what I think or what I feel, or when somebody pinches me, but it's what my spirit feels when I am hurt, when I'm happy, and it articulates it through my body. And it becomes activism because I put it in a public space, which kind of sees things as political. So the body is political. So if the body is political, when I put it in space and put what I'm thinking, which remember, I'm considered not to be existing by society. So when I put myself out there, when I'm visible, when I express myself, automatically it moves from a space of being artistic expression and it moves from a space of activism. And the beautiful thing about activism, when you go and watch a picture in a gallery, the picture does not, it's not like going to a toy where you as the police is standing there with the barricades and the people are toying, carrying stones, and that becomes a very violent and contentious space. When you go to watch a picture, the picture forces you to look within yourself. And I think for me, that's the most powerful thing, because we cannot force people to see things the way that we want them to see it. But we can force them to look within themselves to reflect on who they are and how they are treating the soil that they are walking on. And the soil being the people that they are engaging with, the people that is around them. So for me, when we're looking at visual and oral activism and these beautiful compositions, it took me for a very long time to understand the Witu Brenda as life is going on. Life is going on. We've been trying to find a place for love where we can live together. We've been hiding the love we both know is going on. That was a song of activism. It took us a long time to understand Brenda Fassi, why lesbian, and why khuluma ngesimo se-intimate relationship yakhe nomuntu wakhe engakwazi ukuyiveza. uLuther Vandross mayethi, I won't be your secret love, I won't be your secret baby. Who was speaking about the status of the relationship yakhe nomuntu ayithandana naye, okay, and the song came out. Abantu aba-straight because ngaleso sikhathi babengazi bajabula bacabanga ngomakhwapheni babo, kanti le sayikhuluma about uthanda ayinalo nomuntu ayinalo, activism, so and activism in the arts touches you so beautifully because it is wrapped in something that we consume every day, which is non-violent, which we have in the language, reject. So when we speak about the arts and myself, that is where I am.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to need to come for some lessons, actually. We're not done with that. Because currently, the only way that we are currently linking trans women who are actively performing their activism by waking up in the morning and expressing their transness in their gender expression, né? Juxtaposed to drag artists, which is a performance, né? Do those two spaces meet? Does drag stay in performance space where it doesn't matter, you just want to dress up? Or do those two spaces meet where a trans woman can perform drag as an act of activism? Or is that only, because this is the thing, I watch people dance and twerk, and then I don't know how well I feel represented. What book is that?
I think, you know, it does meet because...
Please answer that a bit later.
Oh, The Faithful Couple.
Oh, wow. Yeah, your current book read. Okay. Yeah,
No,
you're putting it in front of
this
you.
is my
Just
current
give
book
my
read.
face for how to visit an art museum. I was at an art museum today, actually. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
lovely.
but you hear what I'm saying? Because the drag and the trans, they almost seem to be at opposite ends.
Like,
are you there?
You know, one is to see to be entertainment, and the other is believed to perceived to be real and kind of embody
Our connection is so bad.
reality. But in actual essence, both of them do serve as activism. By the fact that in cross-dressing, it means that rest or non-conforming students who are fascinated by or embodying femininity, it means that they're able to question our reality when it comes to constructed. And so, I mean, like, I think maybe it's on your side. That aspect what we see masculinity or femininity.
My goodness, I was struggling to listen to Aluta there. And I mean, what I love about Aluta is that Aluta does not identify as transgender, was assigned male at birth, is identifying as cisgender, is identifying as heterosexual. And it's so important for us to understand, Uba, what is Aluta saying about the transgender experience? Because those are sometimes, most of the time, gay men, sometimes cisgender heterosexual men who dress up as girls as performance. You know, like, what does that mean? Is there activism there? You know, I don't have a lot more questions for Aluta. We just got disconnected now. Our line is not great because currently Aluta is experiencing load shedding and is being generous enough to do this interview, even though they're having load shedding. So I'm just very grateful that someone as talented and as well-known and as celebrated and as someone that graces stages with people that are respected in their fields, you know, how humbly, like, she presents herself, you know, because you don't need to be aggressive when you're transgender by you're arguing with everyone or by, no, give me space. I've only got 2 more questions left for Aluta. I don't know if we're going to get a chance to hear the answers. This is why we must be in the same place and have a proper interview, maybe that's recorded. Load shedding is not doing us justice right now. We're going to wait just a little bit to hear if Luta's coming back. Hey, South Africa is really giving us the runaround because now load shedding is messing with us. We really appreciate that Aluta didn't change the time load shedding. I had load shedding from 4 until 6. Aluta had load shedding from 6. So you can imagine that maybe the power, her phone maybe is finished. But what's so important? Hey, Luta is bad. I think we definitely need to plan to do this in the same place, in the same space, you know. But I'm really hoping people have learned a thing, because we've got a lot of people who want to be on the stage, to perform, to sing, to dance, to be loved. But then they're queer as well, and then they feel like they don't have access to that space. So when we speak to someone like you, and then we know that you have existed in spaces that haven't questioned your talent, that haven't questioned your ability to write, to sing, to be on stage, you know. So what would you say is a must-have for everybody? What is a must-have? Because I feel like we don't even, some people will be threatened, but I'm going to kill you. And somebody will accept, but oh, I must be killed because I'm not loved, I'm not accepted, I'm rejected. So what is a must-have for us?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think personal acceptance is very important. You have to accept yourself first as who and what you are. And you have to also believe in yourself and what you are capable of. I remember when I started off in the arts, I had a very low self-confidence because I was always just criticized. So I could not stand boldly and affirm. And fortunately, when I met Molemo, my dad, I met Zanele when I was fresh from high school. So we've been together for more than 15 years. And he really gave us the confidence, you know, took us to the world and said, you're important. And I think perhaps a must-have within the queer community, we must have this where we must understand which is just because when you have made it or just because when you have access, it doesn't mean you need to shut other people. We must do it like the Indians do it. If one person gains access, everybody must gain access because in so doing, you're creating space for
yeah.
So mind you tell it look performer at a particular place where other queer people must not be there. Let me invite other queer artists to come share the space with me. Let me invite my people as well to support me because that's another thing that we don't do. We don't support one another. So one of the must-have that one of the must-have is that we must have love in our hearts. We must be kind and compassionate. Absolutely. I think love for me speaks to us all. And in so doing, we'll then be able to accept any other thing. Love becomes the foundation. And then obviously kindness, who loves people and loves things, and we can do it with grace and do it with love and fun and have fun doing it, you know? And we share. I remember, there was a point when I was a teacher and I resigned from teaching. I took my package, my financial package, and I started a company. And unfortunately, this company became a training ground for students because I gave away my studio and photography and this and that and that and that. And all those people today in so many amazing spaces, you know. I met Moonchild a while back.
Oh, yeah?
Moonchild was still studying. Moonchild Saneli at the Moonchild is my and
Moonchild is amazing.
She's amazing. But
she's incredible. Yeah. Very talented,
And she was from Durban, and she's one of those people that we met earlier when we started working in the activism world, working for the Lesbian and Gay Center. And we brought them on board and they came and performed while she was studying, and she was a fashion designer before she became all this superstar that she is. But look at what happened when you start investing in someone else. Look at today. There's a host of other people. Abo Toya we met at university and we were in the same class for music. Look at Toya, and the most beautiful thing about some of them, is that they are so kind with their time. They are so kind in giving back. Sometimes our queer brothers and sisters must not be afraid. Like when you just said, "Can I have a conversation with you?" I never said anything. I said, like, let's game on. That's how I felt before I was in this industry. Like I used to do it, I need to turn this, or I want to talk to Tandis, I love Tandis. Until I was like, given a number of Tandis, I called you Tandis, and it's like, oh, I've heard so many things about you. I met you a while back when you came to Devon and you were with a friend of mine. I'm like, yeah, I remember you. Yeah, da, da, da. But look at that. When you bring yourself to other people, people are just people. People are just people. So you can bring yourself down and say, in fact, like I'm an artist of the state, I want to hook up with this. I promise you, they will not reject you. If they reject you, you must understand that it's not because they're just a terrible person.
So that's what you're saying. I'm so glad I asked you this question, because at the end of the day, we need to use all the available popular tools that are there that attract people that we are trying to assist to having like a more responsible, better, healthier life. Ne? As an organization at Molemo, we need to test you for HIV, counsel you, make sure that you're using all the proper PrEP, PEP, and condoms and lube. But you have a life outside of your sex life. You're not having sex 24 hours a day. The rest of the time, what are you doing? The rest of the time, you must be kind, like you're saying. You must be willing to learn, and you must be generous with what you have, right? So that when other people, when it's time for you to show, bah, I'm here, then you are ready to be part of a bigger community that is there to kind of make us look good. Because there's this thing about being gay is this thing that is a curse, because is the thing about you're never going to succeed in life. So when we celebrate you and the stages that we've been on, people look there and they go like, but I will never get there because there's no one there in my community. But what are you doing to be kind of available and accessible to those opportunities? So yeah, I totally agree.
It's that small. And for me, the narrative of making associations with LGBTI persons and linking them with HIV and AIDS, not about HIV and AIDS. The narrative needs to shift. HIV and AIDS is not a phenomenon that is peculiar only to LGBTI persons. It's a global pandemic that the stigma around that should be dispelled. For me, I always say I believe in the law of attraction, and I sometimes, even though I know that there are particular stigmas attached to being me, I always believe Uguti. Like, for instance, I've had a case, I work at the Human Rights Advocacy Advocate and Gay Center, and that's a place which has groomed me for the longest time from when I was a child. There was a case that I was handling just 2 months ago where it's a lesbian person who was being slitted with a razor and made to drink their own blood and locked up in a house, and the cousins were sleeping with her, raping her. And I had to get the person removed from the space and put into they had been so mentally and psychologically disturbed that they were not even functioning in that space. What I'm trying to say is that sometimes it's not what it's what you call to. I think I always practice when I speak to people, I always say God is love. And if I need to reflect God, I need to be love. Anything outside of love is not godly. And in Christians and religious people, I always just get there's something I said when we were speaking at that advocacy training as part of our advocacy statement for Uganda, and I asked them, "Has God done? If uNkulunkulu ephila, would uNkulunkulu do exactly the same as what Christians are doing?" We have to go back to the scripture. So those are some of the questions that we need to pose out there. We need to challenge people to
That's what I love so much
reflect
about
and
you.
say, you know, we need to challenge people to reflect about their own inner struggles that they are experiencing, their own inner projections they are projecting onto us, their own fears of their own sexuality and gender, and confronting that. And perhaps we need to also be kind and also remember that how people think is through their conditioning and socialization. So how we respond as advocates, we have to respond in a kind and courteous manner, like teaching a child how to walk. We have to do it in that manner and not be triggered by their expressions, which may be homophobic on the onset, but we need to convert that negative energy into a positive energy to say, or ngumuntu ophilayo, ngumuntu engigolile. No, but uhlala nami uyangibona ukuthi ngi-right, ngiyaphila, ngiyakwazi ukusiza abanye abantu, ngiyakwazi ukuthanda abanye abantu. Kanti yini Simone? So mhlampe le mfundiso yakho abekufundisa yona ayikho right. Awuke ubuyele eBhayibhelini uhambe uyelifundisisa kabusha, uyibheke ukuthi li-right yini macha. And we cannot do that in the violence. Yeah, but activism and violence does not go together. Yeah, but, and I think that's the biggest challenges we've experienced. And I think that's why I like art so much, is that art is very, it's an expression. You express yourself and people receive or interpret what you express how they choose to. Yeah, but you're not forcing it down, you're not throwing stones, you're not doing this into
because they have to buy a ticket, they have to be willing, they have to consent to view.
Yeah.
Taking them in the street, I'm like, Jonga, I'm inside this theater. You know?
Thank you. And nobody, I could call them spam or come up for you, barricade, but also very, very important, I think, as people, as LGBTI persons, we must not wait for age and good. We must collectively come together and create our own stages. Let's have our own film festivals that speak to us. Let's have our own museums in Free State that speaks about LGBTI persons in the Free State and their existence.
Yes.
Let's have a Free State queer artist or who's in business find a studio in Free State and get a pianist or queer. There's a vocalist or queer. There's a drummer or queer. There's somebody who does PR who's queer. There's a manager of who's queer. Can all those people come together and then create a business where they are all helping one another? I think we cannot be waiting for people to create in that. We have to create those spaces. And the most beautiful thing is that we are living at the era where there's TikTok, there's Facebook, there's YouTube. You don't even need the radio, TV, and print media. It's dead. You can create your own personal account on TikTok and create content and do your acting. You can create your own personal account and play your guitar and sing, and you can sell yourself and then meet up with the right people. Perhaps we need to move away from us saying,
and also not do superficial content that has got no direction and doesn't have substance for us to move forward as a queer, as a queer community, you know? Like why are you going to be so proud of some content that you're creating that's not helping anybody or other people? You know? No, thank you so much for what you're saying, Aluta. I mean, at the end of the day, we did have a great connection.
I was criticizing.
Sorry, carry on. Oh my goodness. I'm going to have to come to Durban. This has not been a great connection, but
yeah, no, I was saying, I was just criticizing one of the recording labels, which was very popular in UK. I know I just went on Facebook and I just wrote a statement. You have to. Yeah, but you know, we're not about sex, rock, and rock and roll. Life is more about living. It's about the mental health. It's about about surviving, it's about money, it's about all these things. And for the longest time, I think what we've been seeing and consuming on mainstream media is
Oh, we have lost Aluta. We apologize for the situation in the country, which is load shedding. We apologize for the situation in the country, which is the fact that our internet is not great. We are going to definitely try and improve the podcast, the agenda exchange, so that we don't have these things. I mean, Aluta is in Durban. I'm here in Bloemfontein, and we are trying to talk to the Free State queer community and say, are you an artist? Are you somebody that has a voice and that has a talent? Even if your family rejects you, even if your friends reject you, even if your community rejects you, you don't have to reject yourself. You can come out of that situation and be a shining light wherever you are. So the Free State community, particularly now, we're inviting the world to come and inspire us, and we are going to be inspired also to not be afraid to gender express, non-binary, transgender, gender diverse, all these things, and whether we have transitioned, pre, post, non-surgery, whether we are in the arts, whether we are struggling with the legal system, whether we are struggling with the health system, we are still going to insist on having a conversation that says, gender is here and we are going to exchange. Have a good night.